The 3 a.m. ceiling you know by heart, and the tired that's still with you at noon, no matter how long you stayed in bed. I'm Annabelle Cross. Welcome to MedHeads. A study of nearly 1 million people just revealed something that clinical training hasn't kept up with. 2 sleep conditions that share the same night, compound each other's damage, and produce a cardiovascular risk that neither creates alone. And the treatment that actually fixes the insomnia side turns out to also be treating your heart. Around 1 in 3 people diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea also has chronic insomnia. Not one condition followed by the other, both running at the same time, sharing the same night. Researchers call this COMISA, comorbid insomnia and sleep apnea. The standard treatment for sleep apnea is a CPAP machine, which holds the airway open and stops the apnea events from happening. It's effective, but a CPAP handles the breathing problem. It doesn't quiet the brain that's still running at 2 a.m. Researchers followed 937,598 post-9/11 US veterans, essentially 1 million people, for up to 20 years. They compared 4 groups: no sleep disorder, insomnia only, sleep apnea only, and COMISA. The results land in a specific order. Insomnia alone raised cardiovascular disease risk. Sleep apnea alone raised it more. But COMISA, the combination, was associated with nearly 4 times the cardiovascular disease risk of veterans who had neither condition. An adjusted hazard ratio of 3.81. And compared to sleep apnea alone, COMISA carried 30 to 50% more cardiovascular risk on top of that. The 2 conditions together aren't just additive, they amplify each other. Here's the mechanism. Sleep apnea works through repeated oxygen drops. Each apnea event triggers a sympathetic surge, a short alarm burst from your autonomic nervous system that briefly spikes your heart rate and blood pressure. With moderate sleep apnea, this happens 15 to 30 times an hour every night. Sustained over years, those repeated spikes slowly push the resting cardiovascular baseline upward. Insomnia stacks a second load onto the same system. Chronic insomnia, driven by hyperarousal, a nervous system that won't stand down at night, elevates overnight cortisol, your body's stress hormone. Elevated overnight cortisol inflames the endothelium, the thin cellular lining inside your blood vessels. That inflammation, sustained over years, is one of the main pathways to vascular disease. Sleep apnea fires the alarm. Insomnia won't let it fall quiet. That's the difference between the combination and either condition alone. The first-line treatment for chronic insomnia is CBT-I, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. Not a medication. A structured, typically 6 to 8 session program. It works 3 ways. Sleep restriction tightens your time in bed, which rebuilds sleep pressure, your body's biological drive to sleep, which chronic insomnia quietly wears away. Stimulus control rewires the association between your bed and wakefulness, and cognitive work targets the thought loops that start running at midnight and won't let go. A systematic review of 15 randomized controlled trials found that CBT-I reduces C-reactive protein, CRP, the body's primary marker of systemic inflammation, the same inflammation that accumulates in blood vessel walls. CBT-I isn't just a sleep treatment, it's a cardiovascular one. CBT-I is recommended as first-line in Australian, US, and UK clinical guidelines. It's available through clinical psychologists, some GPs, and validated digital programs. You can ask for it directly. You don't have to exhaust sleeping pills first. If you've been diagnosed with sleep apnea, but nobody has ever asked about your insomnia, that's a specific gap worth naming to your doctor. The 2 conditions need to be assessed and treated together. Your sleep isn't a character flaw. It's a system that learned to stay switched on, and that system can be retrained. Has your doctor ever mentioned COMISA, or have the insomnia and the sleep apnea always been treated as 2 separate things? Tell me in the comments. I'd genuinely like to know what you've heard from your health team. And if you want more evidence-first explainers like this, on sleep, heart health, and what the research actually says, subscribe. There's more on the way.